Welcome, Thomas. How are you going today?
I'm very fine. Thank you. Thank you, Dharam. Happy to see you again.
So the topic today is distressed project turnaround, stuck or unstuck.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm sure you had some experience, or you've seen some projects, or you probably turn around the projects from from failure to successful, or
Yeah.
something reasonable path. So my first question for your today's discussion is: what are the most reliable indicator that help leaders to recognize when a project has moved beyond temporary challenges into structural distress, especially in today's fast evolving digital landscape?
Yeah, well, the signs that you are in stress, when they occur, it's almost always too late. So let's look at early warning signs, even before
Mm,
the
mm,
stress materializes, and if you have really something. So an early warning signs are sometimes easy to overlook because you know you are so busy in doing the project that you don't really have the time to look into early warning signs too much. So what I found to be one of the most valuable early warning signs is a team moral index, because people working on a project, a team, they understand in their gut feelings first when some things go wrong, and they have to cover up and they have to rework and they have to close some gaps or whatever, and they understand that something is not feasible, that some assumptions are not coming true. So the team moral will show you where if you ask the right questions, that
yeah, yeah.
something is going down. And I've seen already around 2000, there was a project of the year of the German Project Management Association. And actually, what they showed is that they utilized the team moral index as a core controlling instrument in their project. Though they asked the team every week, and some set of similar questions, and they could see from the trend curves, how's it going. And when the trend curve was going down for something, let's say they asked for how well are we doing with our milestones and timings, and the schedule. If that was going down, okay, yeah, had an idea something is going wrong here. Even
Mhm.
if you have another tracking mechanism, some time control, milestone tracking, or whatever, and value, and these are all indicators that come after it went wrong, but the gut feeling of people, what's going to happen, is far before that. And the earlier you act on deviations, the better it is, and because then the effort to get back to the right path is less, and you are early enough that others might not notice it, but you don't have to neglect what the team is saying. And so if you don't have a formal team moral index, and what they did on the project, they had a weekday survey, and they measured the things. It was an anonymous survey what they utilized, so people are more frank and honest if they are
Yeah,
not
yeah.
identified. So this is an easy way, but and gives you some leverage on what's going to happen. So what we normally do is, as early warning, even earned value management can show you some early warning signs, because especially if the change to the worse is not really quick and fast, but maybe it takes several months until it materializes in a critical level. So earned value management can show you some, CPIs going down, and SPIs going down. It can show you something, but it's not the only one size fits all thing. You cannot do really good earned value if you don't have a good scope and WBS and planning and all of that and a
Yeah.
schedule. And many projects I've seen, they go wrong because all the planning is becoming somehow obsolete. Maybe they stick to some milestones, but the detailed planning that was created in the beginning of the project that somehow was maybe too detailed, so they didn't really work for it. I don't know. So the control mechanism gets out of hand, that which is not the cause with the team moral index. So I would also advocate, if you do this controlling, you use different techniques and tools to do that. You don't rely only, let's say, on earned value or on milestone tracking, and then you will um, be better off, if you have different metrics you can rely on. And then often, in today's value-oriented project management environment, we say, okay, every project has to create a benefit. But I have seen, well, maybe it's my old age and my experience in the past 40 years, but I've rarely seen projects that are really tracking benefits. There might be
Mm.
a business case and there might be some benefits listed there, but then it stops. Nobody cares about the business case during the project. Maybe after the project, then they look at it again and say, okay, what went
Mm.
wrong, and lessons learned, and so on. A big blaming session. But during the project, you should first use the business case and the benefits as your guiding principle. That would be the idea, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that is built in program management, because without a benefits realization plan, all this stuff, you cannot run a program, but you can easily run projects, as we know. And the second thing is, if you are, let's say, a contractor, a project manager in a company, and you come in, um, expected benefits might not be shared with you. Anyhow,
Mm.
they do a project for a reason, but they don't share that reason. Why? Because they think it's a competitive advantage, or that people must not know that there will be a cost down and layoffs and whatever. You have a lot of reasons why you keep your causes for the project a little bit secret, and every
Mm.
stakeholder has a different view. This might happen. So benefits is, in my view, not mandatory for all projects and not even feasible for many projects, but it is
Yeah.
mandatory and feasible for programs, because that's how they are defined. So these are the early warning signs, and then you go in, and one of the signs is temporal view. You see that your schedules and your milestones are slipping. That's mostly the first thing, and then you find rational excuses often, and then these
Yeah.
excuses are proven not to be correct, and then as time goes on, situation becomes worse. I've never seen it become better. I've never seen that you, with small things within the same system and setup, you can repair um, slippages or something. We are mostly too optimistic about our planning, and the second thing is, if we plan for a duration of a task or element, then even if you are optimistic, if we plan for the duration, we will fill it up. This is a a principle. We use all of the time that is being allotted for that, and in the end, we might not have the result we want. And we often, plan durations which include some buffer time, some security, some reserves, and then these reserves are eaten up by normal activities. So it's a big waste. This kind of planning, we have to look at other ways of planning, and looking at not not the schedule time, so the linear time, but maybe looking at something called Kairos, the event time. So if we see like in critical chain methodology, the event would be okay. The predecessor task, it has finished the event, and when it's finished, or some days before, we trigger the successor tasks, and it's
Mm.
not driven by predefined milestones or end dates or the durations, but it's driven by the fact what's happening on the field, on the ground, and similar, you have another time concept, which is also not the Chronos linear time, is a time boxing in Scrum. You have these sprints, and you do what you can in the sprints, and in the end, you will see by retrospectives where you were and what is left over, and you move over to the next. But you don't have really this time pressure in Agile and Scrum, because you have the next 2 weeks. It's a sprint. It's somehow
Yep.
divided by the events that will be happening, daily stand-ups and so on, and then in the end, you will see what comes out. And but you are focused. That's a good thing. You don't care so much about things. In traditional um, planning, so you say, okay, this phase will take 3 months, but you really don't know how realistic that is, because it's an estimation. Then that is one thing. You see the milestones slipping, and then another thing, especially in our times when we introduce new digital tools into project management, but also into our products we are building, we have the risks that come up with these digital tools. Let's say, we have tech that we don't understand the platform. Is a platform mature and stable enough to use? And what I also found very often, if you use a new tool or a new way of working, then we often forget that the team doesn't know about it yet. So we underinvest in training, in standardizing, in
Yeah.
piloting,
Yeah.
all this stuff. We just say, just use ChatGPT, and then
Mm.
nobody knows what it is, and then they understand what it is, and then they use it like being at home and looking for some ideas, and in a project environment, this can be deadly, because these risks are that you misuse the tool, or you overlook some privacy concerns, or you put in data that should not be there, for some policy reasons. So you have to, if you introduce new tools, you always have to understand what is the consequences of using them, and how to optimize the use for your project. So digital tools are easier to learn, maybe, yeah, but they still require
Yeah.
some planning and some embedding into the an environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are the milestones are the signs that it's going wrong, and the misuse of digital tools is also a risk that, as I've seen more often in projects. And then it's the same, if you have, let's say, a team that is used to use a certain methodology, which is maybe phased and planning and so on, and then they say, okay, from next month on, we are going to Scrum. Well, there's a mindset behind it, there needs to be
Yeah.
some coaching,
Exactly.
some learning, blah, blah, blah. And then you wouldn't expect the same productivity with a new methodology used as you have
Yeah.
with a known methodology. It might have some benefits, but the benefits will only realize after some change process has happened, and I think many people understand from their own company, if they really moved from what they call waterfall to agile, it isn't done in 2 months, maybe technically yes, but from the mindset, the working style, from the productivity, no, you need maybe 1 2 years to do that.
Yeah, that has to be planned approach. You can't just, hey guys, from next month we are doing agile. No.
No, no.
So, so yeah, you talked about number of indicators. Especially when I mean, interesting one was the team moral index. Team plus, I think we can also say stakeholder moral index. Not only the team, how the team feel, but your stakeholder also
Yeah, yeah.
important. They should be, the training committee member, your PMO, and others. Collectively, how everything, are we on track?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm. With CPI, SPI, yes, we talk about, and many organizations doing really good job, but I don't think that everybody's doing following the good job, doing good job in earned value part. As I think a couple of companies have seen they're doing good job in that, but otherwise, whatever. So there are, as per the type of program or project we're doing, we need to establish, okay, these are various type of indicator, which one can give us, early warnings. So keep an eye. And nowadays, having AI based tools can also start giving indication that, based on the participation, based on the type of language used in the emails and discussion, that can also give you some indication that something is not right. And that's where the early
right.
warnings can help you. My next question is, you know when portfolio visibility begins to break down and multiple initiatives start slipping, when specific interventions can a PMO apply it? What? Sorry, let me start again. When portfolio visibility begin to break down and multiple initiatives start slipping, what specific intervention can a PMO apply to restore alignment and forward momentum across the programs?
Yeah. Well, it's a different symptom and a different root cause, maybe. In the first question, we talked about one project and what's happening there, how to find out what's going on, and here now we are talking about the portfolio, and maybe
Yeah,
the full portfolio of an organization or the portfolio of a division of this organization, you name it. So it's not necessarily a problem of the project, but it's maybe a problem which is related to how the portfolio works. And the first thing is the portfolio still aligned with the strategic goals of the organization?
yeah,
And sometimes a portfolio maybe is set for or designed for a year or so. Maybe strategy changes more quickly because the environment changes more quickly. And
yeah,
what do I mean as an example for changing strategy? Maybe there are new sanctions in your industry, and uh, are afraid of losing a market to act very quickly to, let's say, fill the supply chain to be able to survive for some time, and then see what happens. So and then maybe your project where you were trying to support the supply chain with, has to have different targets because the environment changed. And if you have longer projects, it's almost certain that the environment and strategic alignment will change for the project. But it's even worse for the portfolio, because if you have a portfolio, you have multiple projects, and it's very clear that maybe you look at the alignment to the strategic goals, because um, the project might be influenced by the sponsors, by the customers, by the people they are serving, to look at these changes in strategy, but the portfolio selection process is not. And that's a problem. And even this portfolio um, assessment process, how you look at the individual project. Are they going well according to the portfolio targets? Maybe yes, but according to the targets, now revised targets of the organization, probably not. And that's a misalignment you will see.
yeah,
Um, and then these are factual things. These are very severe things that impact projects and
yeah,
portfolio. But But then also in the portfolio process, you always have designed some selection criteria, to prioritize the projects and to see what is in, what is out, and go that. And these are, let's say, these are commitments for everybody to adhere to. But if these selection criteria become, let's say, unrealistic for some reason, they are not accepted by people. So they will not put their weight on the selection criteria and push through and adhere to these commitments. But they will do what life and business requires, and then you will have a widening gap between the acceptance of your rules and what reality on the ground requires from the project. So this is the portfolio problem. So what are you doing in these cases? First of all, I would say you inject a leadership capacity. So you have a portfolio leader, maybe it's in the PMO, maybe it's somewhere on the board, but apparently, these people need some enhancement of their powers or some additional way to do that, because now you are not leading a stable portfolio. Now you are leading a mess, and you need leaders who are able to deal with this kind of mess, and to stay
Yep.
calm and to make the right adjustments to bring it again in a stable stable state. um, I would also trigger a health audit, for the portfolio, to see, okay, what
Yeah.
are the root causes. Maybe it's a change in reality and environment, but which change it is, and then eh, the health audit shows you the symptoms, but then again, leadership is required to define solutions to the symptoms and to the problems you have identified.
Yep.
And it's not only that solutions for specific easy problems have to be designed, they also have to be negotiated, because always, in the portfolio, this is being discussed on C level, maybe, and there is always a political discussion necessary to come to new solutions. A strategy discussion should happen. Um, and then, if you decide to continue with the portfolio, you have to establish new guardrails for it, new criteria, maybe really cancel some projects, and this is uh, very tough to do, because you have to have a political discussion on it, and you have to reassess the criteria, and then again you come into that um, out of time, this discussion, how should we continue using our resources on the task at hand. What also could happen, that you lose your capabilities in some manner. I understand IBM, for instance, they lost their research capabilities in China, because there was a political decision to move IBM research out of China, and they moved it,
Hmm.
a lot of that, into India. But they lost researchers which were working for them for maybe 10 years or so, had a lot of
Yeah.
ideas and thinking process. And so if you lose a critical capability, then you have to think, okay, what should I do? For IBM's case, one step was to move to India, but then how to build this, and maybe lure these Chinese individuals to go to India, working still for IBM in another country, or you have to outsource things. Yeah? That's what some people are doing, outsourcing a problem. So there are a lot of, but you see, very difficult and impactful actions you should take. So portfolio always is, making sure that you use your available capacities and resources on the task you selected you want to do to fulfill your mission, So if one of these two corners, you either the tasks, the projects, or the resources used in them are a little bit shaky, then you will have a portfolio problem, and that's what we see here.
Exactly. And I think you brought a lot of number of good points. How to keep the portfolio aligned with the right resources. And nowadays, given that we have number of tools, digital tools, which can help you to keep the focus. And PMO can create some dashboard for portfolio to see various what do you call indicators, to keep an eye on that and start before they start slipping. Something can be taken care. That's where when I see the PMO can be brought into the picture, or not brought, but they should be a partner with the portfolios to keep an eye on what's happening in the portfolio and apply some early interventions so we can recover or about to fail projects.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. If you have a PMO running your portfolio, then certainly it must be involved, and it must um, uh, help to implement all these changes. On the other hand, if you look at changes in the strategic plan, in the environment, then maybe the PMO is a little bit overburdened with that because they don't have maybe the skills or the power to
Yeah.
reach into the strategy. So I think the strategy department, if you have something like that, or the
Mhm.
C-suite who is discussing and deciding on the strategy, they must be involved. You go above the PMO, with that. So the
Yeah.
implementation of changes, yeah, the PMO could certainly help a lot, and they understand what's going on and how to do it. But yeah, still think the executive suite.
Yeah. And when you say PMO, when we say PMO is not just support structure. It can be the strategic. There's another name is SCPMO, Strategic Execution Project Management Office. So that's where we're talking about PMO, which can
Okay, okay.
help keep everybody, keeping an eye, as well as are we still strategically aligned or not from that point of view.
Well, how many
Yep. So
how many companies in your experience, and you have a wider view on the market today than I have,
mm,
how many have such a strategic project management office as
I think
percentage?
it's not too many, but it's growing. And as you know, PMI had brought new certificate called PMOCP. That will generate more and more awareness. One thing is lack of awareness. Many organizations, they don't believe they need PMO. They still see the PMO as a overhead. Why we have three people sitting doing nothing just to advise
Yeah.
about what risk report to use, risk register use. Everybody know that, they assume that. So but that group of people, whether we talk supporting PMO or controlling PMO or SCPMO or transformation PMO, different names for different type of work. uh, they need to realize the importance. More and more companies start seeing it, and more awareness will be there. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
these are people. They are the PMO means they are not just bunch of people who are just reporting on template. More about thinking. They're coming as subject matter expert
Yeah.
from project point of view or from strategic point of view.
I
Yeah,
like that you mentioned the PMI initiative to go into the PMO certifications and standards, everything, and they acquired this PMO GA,
yeah,
um, and with its valuing methodology, and it's now implemented in the PMO guide. I think that's a very good step of PMI, and not only because they covered this gap in their portfolio, but
yeah,
it was also the PMO GA methodology is very flexible, and because they understood it's really depending on the specific circumstances of a company, what is best for
mm,
them, how to start, and they can expand and so on. So yeah, I support that everybody's looking at that, and PMI has established a support structure to spread the word, and to help people understand what it is about. And they have some regional PMOGA hubs where you can find experts and information from PMI.
Yeah. The one thing I like about PMOCP certificate, like PMP, PGMP, PFMP, or other PMI certificate, they are certifying that you have required experience as a project manager, program manager, portfolio manager, risk management. But this is, of course, certify your PMO experience and expertise, but also gives you tools and and like if you look at the back of the book, the practice guide, they have given number of questions which can be taken as it is and converted in a tool, and you can go to any organization. Hey guys, I'm here to help your PMO, or I'm here to look at maturity of your PMO and then assist you in filling the gaps. So that's why this PMO CP is different to other certificates from PMI.
Hmm. But it's
This is
still
giving you capability to be a consultant in this space who can actually run the business on that.
okay. Okay. But it's still a certificate for a individual, not for an
Yeah,
organization. Yeah.
yeah. Certificate is to certify that you have the knowledge and expertise in that area. But also, if you take the book is exam is not testing you about how to create the tool, how to use this various. But in the book, they have given you you know the 20, 30 pages with lots of questions to assess current versus future, current versus what are the gaps, and help you to give you some scores. And based on the scoring, you can find out whether you're on track, you need some maturity, some help, that kind of thing. That's why this PMOCP is different than other certificates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. All right, let me ask the next question. In your experience with high stake turnarounds, how do you approach recalibrating the business case and redefining the value narratives to support decision, such as pivoting, pausing, or closing the project?
Yeah. Now we are talking about a project, within a given portfolio,
Yeah,
which might be running well, but the project itself has a problem. And I think the first thing I always do if I run into any problems with the project is to look at the stakeholders, talk to them and understand what their opinion, their concerns are with the current status. So this involves the sponsors, the delivery teams, the customers, yeah. So and really understand what the status quo is and what the expectations are, and then you have a footing where you can build on any other turnaround activities. um, if you have that, you understand what they are expecting, then you can create a new narrative, a value narrative. What would be the value of the uh, how do we change the narrative, which value we are creating with this project for the different beneficiaries that receive the benefits out of it. So, and maybe, if we have a turnaround in a project, we change that narrative from that was there before, because maybe we have identified some emerging benefits that were not understood or known or expected before. So something comes up, we grasp opportunity, and that's what we should do. We also talk about risk management, the negative things for a project, but it's also the
yeah,
positive opportunities that we identify something that we should leverage and build on and maybe change, and maybe put in as the highest priority, and the other benefits on a lower priority, or even kill them. So it's a redo of the business case. in any fact. So we have to reassess the business case in any case. So we have an
Yeah.
original one with the benefits and the cost and everything, and then we have a turnaround. We have a new value, new benefits. Maybe other stakeholder expectations, and then we go in and rewrite the business case and reapprove it because you could
Mm,
say it's a change, but it's maybe in a real pivot. It might be not a change but a replacement of a business case. And well, the thought always is, should we maybe kill the old project then and initiate a new one? Because maybe it's the best way to get with the old burdens, with the old debts we have. We had a business case and a project and a team and everything aligned, and now we found out, okay, we should pivot and do something else with a. But do we need exact the same team, or do we just keep it because of
mm,
emotions, So we have really to pivot and to cut through and to make sure that we have a new way of going there. And if we want to keep the majority of the team, which we probably should because they have some experience and some insights, then we can go there. So
mm,
reframing the value and what we did, in this pivot, in this reassessment is that we added, we had a schedule and milestones and everything, and then something happened from the outside, mostly, and which initiated this kind of rethinking of value of business case, of benefits, and so we moved into an event-driven time. Kairos. I mentioned it before. Kairos is a time concept when you see, okay, there is a window of opportunity and we grasp it. So we don't put it aside and look for the data, but we grasp it and we say, okay, let's do that. I must commit that maybe for a project, it's more project should many projects or most projects are quite shorter than maybe a year, maybe 6 months, 9 months. And
mm.
this kind of project, I don't expect a pivot. I really, I expect that they can survive with the original business case and deliver within that time. But once you go beyond a year, it's almost certain that strategic environment changes and other things change. And then, anyhow, I would expect that you consider these more large and complex, what we call projects, that you redesign them as programs, because
Mm.
programs have this built-in flexibility to identify emerging benefits and to monitor the benefits, and which most projects don't do, and they don't do it because they are quite sure, and people are concerned with delivery of deliverables, with a traditional way of having
Yeah.
successful project within time and cost and so on. But programs, they're much wider, and so I always smile for myself, and I object the term mega project because mega projects, if they are run like projects, they fail, and we have a huge failure rate. Everybody is complaining, why can't we do mega project? And my answer is, my hypothesis is, it's because you're running them not as programs, as it would be appropriate, but as projects. So there are huge differences between the two, and I think if you want to be successful, you have to apply the appropriate ways of working and tools and so on.
Yeah. I mean, especially we're talking about high stake turnaround, projects which we're talking millions of dollars. And
Yeah.
the problem was, we know there are some problems, and somehow we pull it back. Now we need to look back. Okay, you know what? Let's look at the business case. Is the previously approved business case still valid? If not valid, what has changed?
Yeah.
Whether the benefit, expected benefit, as you mentioned, expected benefit are not the same, the value delivery is the same or not same, or the strategic alignment is not aligned, 100% aligned. Many things to be recalibrated, and it's important to do that. You cannot while the we somehow recovered, we need to see within the remainder of time and the money, what can we deliver. Can we deliver everything whatever promised? Maybe yes, if that's the case, or no.
Yeah.
We renegotiate the scope of work, renegotiate the amount of money we need, or the people we need, the technology we need. So that's where the renegotiation happens.
Yeah. My me prioritizing first the discussion with the stakeholders is
Mm,
that a review of the business case cannot be a desktop exercise by
yeah, no, no.
one guy, in his office. So there has to be some understanding what the environment of stakeholders is expecting, what changed, what they are seeing as obstacles or whatever. And you have to understand this in order to be able to assess the business case which is existing, and even more, to come to a new business case. The solutioning first describes the problem, and for description of the problem, you have to extend your view and
Yeah.
look at the context, what changed in the context, and maybe one change in the context. Let's say the exchange over the project sponsor. This triggered the problem, but there are many other problems out there. And once you refine something, maybe you have to at least understand what other problems are influencing your project.
And business case, project failure is can be because of some natural disasters or force majeure, or that we have seen during COVID. uh, Sudden thing, suddenly nobody can travel, nothing happened. And we need to assess whether the benefits are still same, or we need to recalibrate the benefits,
Yeah.
because the previous benefits were based on the, the the events happening, physical events happen like PMI event or some events happening. So that was based on, entire business case was based on some of the physical events. Now the things have changed. What do we do? Maybe convert into the virtual events, virtual programs.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's where we need to reassess, and if required, pivot. The business case is not valid anymore. Why to continue to pour money? Rather take the money out and do something better with that same money.
Hmm.
Or you can pause it for some time. Let's say you are in the COVID, before COVID. Now COVID, let's see how, until we come out of this, let's put this on side, and when we come out of COVID, we'll restart thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or maybe close it. No point of wasting money. Yeah, as early as possible. Rather do it sooner than later.
Rather, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, anyhow,
right.
some methodologies suggest that you really look at the business case regularly during the
Yeah,
project. That's certainly recommended for larger initiatives, which I would call program.
exactly.
But
Hmm.
reassessing the business case, if you do it regularly, it's probably not that you need to pivot at some point of time because you have adapted over time and have aligned it. But like with the project charter, the tendency is to keep it unchanged because the change process itself is a it's a
Complex.
it's a it's a huge effort, where you have to discuss and negotiate with a lot of stakeholders.
So, Thomas, thank you for your insight and all this, experience you have gone through, and providing some of the valuable tools and assessment, many things we've gone through. So we still have not completed today's discussion. We still have many questions to talk about. We'll bring them into next session.
Good.
Any last thoughts you have?
Well, I think it's a topic very valid for every project manager and program manager, because in my lifetime, at some time I I got into my first distressed project, and then I was taken by surprise, and it became very emotional, and
Mm,
or it was my own project. It became distressed. I asked for help. I got help or not, whatever. But it was really a very challenging personal experience. And
mm,
later on, as a PMO leader, especially, you are maybe dealing with a lot of these projects, and you need to understand what help you can give them. Not only the project to deliver the value they are expected to deliver to the organization, but also the project managers and the teams. Yeah, because I've seen also teams break apart, during these times when the people cannot handle the distress, or they are trying to shield themselves against any guilt. So if there's a blaming culture, that's not good for these projects. And if you get to exchange the project manager, make sure that it's not a personal thing. They must not be fired of the organization, but maybe you just
mm.
frame it as a protection of them, and taking them out, and because another kind of leadership is required, um,
Yeah,
and maybe someone more experienced, maybe someone who can rebuild trust with the customer. There are many reasons to exchange a project manager.
yeah,
In most cases, actually, there is more required just to change leadership, because although, as we discussed, benefits and value and business cases have to be considered. So I say, if you are a project manager, you come situation being in that place of being distressed, you come into the situation where you see others, and eventually you come into a situation where you are being asked to be the replacement for the project manager, and then you come up with your own ideas and so on. And I found that one of the most rewarding roles as a project manager, because if you come in as a rescuer, that's a good feeling,
mm,
but you also have the ability to ask for a lot of resources, because people want you
yeah,
to save it, and what you want you get. So in my experience, personal experience in that area is, if you rescue a project, it costs 4 times as much as initially planned. Because
yeah,
it's maybe because you say, okay, I need that money, and I get it, and I get the resources, and the attention is there. But there's certainly also a lot of waste improved. But the waste maybe is necessary to find solutions, to be creative, to innovate, and so on. So that's my let's say last sentence for you as a project manager. Don't
yeah.
neglect the topic. Inform yourself, read about it, and it's interesting, and you come into the situation to be involved in any case.
Yeah, I like the your point on the rewards, and you feel accomplished that okay, you rescued this mega $1 million work which was going nowhere, and suddenly you brought it back, and you got the results, and people see that you're a hero, and all the you're Superman. Okay, that was with this last word. Okay, I will see you soon and continue the discussion, and enjoy your rest of the day, and we'll see you again.
See you, Dharam. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Take care.